All right,
We're
everybody.
back.
Welcome back to another episode of the Seven Figures or Bust podcast, the number one podcast in the world for growing your insurance business. This is episode 71. I am your host, Christian Brindle. I'm joined, as always, with my co-host, Glenn Shelton. And we have an awesome episode for you guys today, all about buying books of business. And everything that goes into that and how it can really leapfrog your growth. But before we get into that, good morning, sir. How are you today? How are you this morning?
Good morning. Oh, I'm good. There's some sickness going around in my house, as always. Seems like it's a miracle. If I go more than like 3 weeks, it's a miracle if no one in my house is sick.
Yesterday, I started feeling like I might be coming down with something, and it was nothing more than just a headache, but sometimes it starts with just a headache. I was like, we had one of our employees that was sick on Monday.
Right.
And so my paranoia starts to, my paranoia alarms start to go off a little bit, and I'm like, oh no, here we go. But today I'm feeling fine, thankfully.
Good.
So
good.
Fingers crossed that it stays that way.
It's part. I feel like that's part of like getting older too. Is like it's like you fall down and you're like, did I just blow out my knee? It's like, oh no, I just scraped it. It's just a scrape. It's like my ACL is fine.
I fell down. Did I die? Is this the afterlife? No, I'm still here. We're good. Okay.
I remember totally random story, but I was in Boy Scouts and we were playing basketball one night just kind of for fun. And I had a young one of the leaders. He was a relatively young guy. He was in his like late 30s, 37, 38. And he was chasing down a basketball and I just watched him crumple. Ooh. And he blew out. It was a non-contact, blew out his knee. I'm pretty sure it was like an ACL tear. And I just remember I was like 10 feet away and I watched it happen. And I that's like in the back of my head now. I'm like, what's going to happen to me?
I had a moment yesterday morning where I have not, I don't know if I've ever felt older in my life. So
here we go. The good stuff.
I was at the gym and I decided for my workout, I'm like, I'm going to shoot some hoops. That's going to be what I'm going to do today. And, I played basketball my whole life. I've never been great, but I played basketball my whole life. I've never been like a super good player or anything, but I have the fundamentals down, maybe, as they say. And so I'm shooting, right? And I shoot a couple close shots, I'm like, okay, I'm getting warm and everything. I go back and try to shoot some longer shots. And as I'm jumping to shoot, my knees are aching. And I'm like, what's this? Because I have memories of, I played high school basketball, for those of you that don't know. Not because I was good, but I was
improved player. We have the most improved player here, guys.
We'll bring it on the show tomorrow. We'll bring the trophy on the show tomorrow. But I never remember in feeling pain when I'm shooting a jump shot ever in my life. And as the more I'm playing, the longer I'm chasing down the ball, nobody's rebounding for me or anything. And I'm hurting more and more and more. And I'm like, no, I'm like, can I not play anymore without being in agony?
Have you noticed I went to a high school basketball game the other night and all the kids wear them. A lot of the NBA players, I think, wear them too. Have you noticed those bands like right below the knee?
That
people wear. Yeah. That's supposed to help take pressure off the knee to alleviate a lot of that. Because again, it's a brutal sport long term. I mean, I don't know. Again, LeBron James must have they must have put some robotic parts inside his body at this point, because just the repetitiveness, even without any contact, just the repetitiveness of some of those motions is
the running, the body. Jumping, all of it.
Are you sore? Are you sore today?
No, I feel fine today. It's just in the moment.
You're just like drinking a whole bottle of ibuprofen after the gym yesterday. It's just like
in the moment, right? Like I'm these jump shots, and I'm just like, oh my God. I'm like, I can't get the lift under me like I used to, you know, and I'm like, oh, this is bad. This is not good, like whatsoever.
I love it.
But thankfully it wasn't like a lingering thing. It was in the moment. Like once I was like a couple hours removed of being at the gym, and I was fine.
That's a great story you can share with a senior prospect. If you end up sitting down with someone and you have a 65-year-old senior who talks about how his knees are hurting, you're like, mine are too. I think Christian sold so much Medicare that he's becoming a Medicare beneficiary about 2 to 3 decades before his actual age. That's what we're going to witness.
Hopefully not. But okay, so starting the show today, right?
Yes.
Last night there was a bit of discussion.
There was
in our private Facebook group. It's not really private; it's very public. But seven-figure Medicare agent, about our very own lead heroes.
Yes. The post in the group, you guys may have seen it. If you haven't, it's still up. It was has your experience been with lead heroes?
Mm-hmm.
And this also kind of took me back. Christian and I at one point did some like internet sleuthing. We went all around the internet to see some of the conversations around us and our companies, and we were kind of blown away.
To be fair, I found the ones about me by accident. I wasn't like looking for them necessarily.
But it was like one, right? The first one was but then all of a sudden we like went down the rabbit hole, right? It was like, wait a sec, what is this? It's like pulling a string on a sweater, and you're like, wait a second, what is this? And you're finding all these comments. There was comments on Reddit, there was comments on the insurance forums.
There is a Reddit about me. There is. Yeah. There is a sub. Is that the term, subreddit?
Yeah,
subreddit.
Dude, there were some comments about you that were so funny. It's like, I think they called you an insurance bro or something. Like, Christian's just another insurance bro or something.
Which in reality, right? Like, I could never fit in with the bros. You know what I mean? Like, I really couldn't.
Well, we heard your basketball experience earlier. We already know that's true.
Like, I think there's this perception. I've had this before. I had somebody in the industry before, not just me, but a couple of other people. But I was lumped into it a little bit about, the frat bros. Oh, the Medicare frat bros, I think was the term they used.
That's exactly what it was, because I remember dying. I was like, what?
But this was a couple years ago. This was somebody like in the industry that was like pretty established. And I was like, I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, I didn't go to college. You know what I mean? I didn't go to college.
Let alone a fraternity. There was no fraternity.
I was not invited. I was not welcomed with open arms.
Okay.
They say. Sorry.
Continue. So we're getting off topic a little bit here, but one of the comments that we found online previously I wanted to mention was on the insurance forums, and I remember it basically said that it was like Shelton and Brindle will heavily censor any public feedback about lead heroes in their own Facebook group, in the 7-Figure Medicare Agent Facebook group, which some of you may be watching this live right now in the 7-Figure Medicare Agent Facebook group. And what I have to say to that is that that's bullshit. That's just not true. We don't censor people here. As long as it's valid. Like, if someone had never bought leads from lead heroes before, and then they're jumping in and they're like trying to slander lead heroes and they said the leads suck, that would be something where, yes, potentially we would delete that comment. But if it's someone that's providing their actual experience, the good, bad, or ugly, we're not going to take that down. That stays up. Because again, authenticity, transparency, that's what we're all about here. So I wanted to make a quick note of that, because I do think there's some people out there who believe that think that we're just going to like heavily say all of this positive feedback about lead heroes. Well, clearly Glenn and Christian are just censoring all of the bad comments. That's not true at all. And I also don't believe that there's a lead vendor out there who bats 1,000. I think almost every single marketing company in the insurance space, or even outside the insurance space, every lead vendor, they're going to have bad experiences for one reason or another. And there's so many variables around that. So what I wanted to talk about before we get into the main topic today was just kind of like what's creating some of these bad experiences for agents, right? What are some of these variables? Because some of these variables are potentially on the Lead Hero side. Some of these variables are on the agent or agency side. And then there's some variables that are kind of just in between, where it's not necessarily, our issue or our variable to control or your variable to control. Sometimes it could be something like the area, right? So really fast, we'll get through some of these in the next 10 minutes here, and then we'll move on to our main topic today. But the first one that's been coming up over and over is really about the target demographic, the area that we're targeting, and specifically turning 65. So, what I think people don't understand, because this was specifically one of the comments, is I targeted an area with 1 million people and they couldn't generate enough turning 65 leads for me. Like, Lead Hero sucks. And it's like, statistically, you have to understand, we're trying to target people 2 to 5 months. That's kind of the sweet spot. 2 to 5 months, 2 to 6 months from their 65th birthday.
Yep.
So you're talking about a fraction of a population that we're trying to target. And then on top of that, there's only so many people who've opted in that we're allowed to compliantly make those calls to reach out to. So 1 million people, if it's 0 to 90, if you're talking about a total population size of age bracket of 0 to 90, and if you just went down to 64 only, right? Because they're turning 65. 64 only is probably going to be like 1% of that. You're talking about going from 1 million down to 10,000 probably, right?
Right. Yeah.
Now you're going from 1 million to 10,000. Now you're just targeting the birthday months that are roughly 2 to 5 months out. Now we're going from 10,000 down to, let's say 3 to 4,000. Now you're only targeting the people who've actually opted in. You have their information. You're allowed to call them. Now you're down to like 1,000 people out of that 1 million people. That's the real breakdown in these numbers. I've said that before, and privately, publicly, I've sent emails over and over and over about this. And I've tried to really help explain it, because again, I don't think I even understood it until I really got deep into it on the marketing side. But Christian, what do you think about that as far as like the T65 demo, some misconceptions that agents have around quantity? I think that's the big thing is the quantity of these T65 folks.
Yeah. I think it's one of those things where I think, like, when you see those types of comments, right? An example, like the one you just listed, where, I have 1 million people in my county. It's like, oh, wow, it's a lot of 1 million people. On the outside looking in, like you said, it can look like, oh, there's 1 million people for Lead Heroes to work with. Not necessarily, just like you, very, very articulately kind of spelled out. It's a much smaller pool of people because it's a very specific demographic that we're targeting, right? And so I think T65 is definitely one of those things that has, a lot of variables, right? And it's going to be tricky. It's going to depend on the area. It's going to depend on a lot of things, and it's going to depend on how big or small or how many areas that someone's willing to target. Some areas, it's going to be one of those things where maybe you live in a big enough metropolitan or, geographical area that you can target maybe your just local specific area. And it's going to be good enough, but not across the board, right? So I think people need to understand that when it comes to leads and Lead Heroes. I do feel like that, and one thing that made me comfortable, getting into business in a sense with Lead Heroes like we have, is, as a user myself, as a customer myself, prior to the merger, I had situations where a campaign maybe didn't go as planned.
For sure.
And one thing I always appreciated was
there were several times. I remember there were several times where I was like, "Oh Lord," where there. I remember being like, you're like, "Hey, Glenn, it's been 2-3 weeks. We've gotten almost nothing. What's going on?"
Right. Yeah. Like
that happened.
And what I feel like I always appreciated about you and the Lead Heroes team on the customer side of things was you always did everything you could to try to make adjustments and try to tweak things when things were brought to your attention, to make the campaign work for me. And I think that's where most people, they don't get the full Lead Heroes experience if they run into a situation like that, because they don't give us a chance to make adjustments or tweak it or see what we can do to fix whatever the problem might be. I feel like the vast majority of situations that come up where there might be volume challenges, fulfilling challenges, whatever it might be, quality challenges, whatever. I feel like if the agent's willing to work with us, absolutely, I think we can make it. We can make adjustments and try different things and get to a working place. And I've also felt like Lead Heroes is always very fair. Like if there's a situation, like there was a person that, that on that post, that was like, I bought leads, it didn't work, blah, 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 is years ago. And after I get in and I start, commenting back and forth, kind of comes out that it's like, yeah, it didn't work. So this was several years ago. But they refunded me. And I'm like, there's a lot of marketing companies that wouldn't do that. They'd be like,
sure,
tough luck, buddy.
Yeah.
We don't do refunds or anything like that. There's a lot of organizations, marketing companies out there that would take that stance. I felt like Lead Heroes always does the right thing. And I think it's not an accident that the company is basically 150 years old in lead company years.
It's true. It's true.
You know what I mean? Like lead companies are dime a dozen in terms of like they're here one day, they're gone the next.
Yes.
I can't think of hardly any lead companies in our space that I remember that were around when Lead Heroes started that are still around today. Maybe you know of some. There aren't a lot.
Lead Concepts has been around for a long time.
Yes, that's a good one.
That's one of the few that I would say. I mean, they are dime a dozen. A lot of them go fast. And I do appreciate you saying that because we do try to correct the situation. We try, whether that's replacing leads, if we have to refund someone, it's changing the target area, it's trying to work with the agent on, what is your scripting? Who's actually working these leads? Is it going to an appointment setter? Is it going to an agent? Are you the person working the leads? Like we try to troubleshoot this thing the same way a mechanic would troubleshoot a car that's coming into the shop because we want it to work. Yeah. One line I tell everybody is like, we don't really make any money on one lead order. Like,
right.
The goal is to have an agent that's coming back every week, every month, every year. That's a situation that's actually profitable for us. That's a situation that drives revenue and can actually create a profitable relationship. One lead order doesn't really mean anything to us. Right. So that's why we approach it the way we do, is because we want an agent to have success. We want an agent or agency to come back and continue to work with us. So, I'm a huge fan of the Med Sup demo because there's so many more people in that same area. If you're an agent, you're wanting to work in your local area and you have 5 to 7 counties and you think, man, there's 1 million people here. What the hell, Glenn? What the hell, Lead Heroes? What's going on? Why can't I get my 2065 leads? Well, we can't pull water out of a rock. That's the one situation where, it does happen from time to time where we do kind of hit that wall where it's like, I'm not willing to open up my area. I'm not willing to switch to something like MedSup. I've got to stay with T65. I've got to stay in these local counties. That would be a situation where we might just have to refund someone. But, again, we want to try to make this work and kind of talk about other solutions. So another variable that's kind of out of our control is response rate to the marketing. And certain areas will have crazy high response rates. Rural parts of Kansas, rural parts of West Virginia, rural parts in Georgia, I've seen really, really high response rates where I'm looking at the numbers and it's crazy. An average response rate.
West Virginia.
Yeah, West Virginia, honestly, super high response rate. And I chalk a lot of that up to is just people aren't being marketed to in these areas as much. And so when marketing comes in front of them, they're at, oh yeah, I want to talk to someone. I remember this one, it was like a very rural part in Georgia. And I remember listening to the call, and this lady was like, I've been waiting to talk to someone about my Medicare plan for a long time. Please connect me to an agent as fast as you can. I was like, wow, what a freaking lead that is.
Like, Glenn's amazing. Like, I'm going to jump on the phone and sell this myself.
That's now my lead. Thank you very much.
Be like, well, I'm glad you said that, Dorothy. Yeah. My name is Glenn. I'm with Everything Senior Insurance. No, I feel like
we don't do that, by the way. We don't cherry pick the leads. But
just kidding. Yeah, totally joking. By the way, they're not passing all the great ones off to me.
Yeah, Christian,
and I'm like waiting on the other side. So let's say somebody's watching this and they are having difficulties with volume, right? Like, and we didn't even get into situations where like the volume's great, but someone's having trouble with converting. We can talk about that a little bit too. But like, I feel like we've talked about that a lot on content. But if they're having trouble with volume, what are some tweaks? I know you kind of talked about it a little bit, but what are some tweaks that we can make for them if they're willing to allow us to do it? We can shift to Med Sup, but let's say they really want T65. What's the solution? Do you think it's opening it up statewide? Is it is it just trying to, is it simple as trying to increase the pool of people?
It is that simple. And so there's a few different like ways of opening up that pool. So one option, and some people are against this, some people are happy to do this. We can increase those birth months that we're targeting. So I mentioned earlier, our typical approach is 2 to 5 months, 2 to 6 months. We can go 1 to 8 months. We can really open up the number of birth months that we're targeting, 1 to 8 months, 1 to 10 months. Obviously the further out from their 65th birthday, the more follow-up that ends up being on your plate as the agent, as the agency owner. But some people are like, hey, we're fine with that. We have a great pipeline. We just need to fill the pipeline. If they're turning 65 in 8, 9, 10 months, we can take that lead. We can work that lead. We'll convert that person. We're fine with that. So that's one option. Another option is obviously opening up the area. If you're trying to get this done in 5 to 7 counties in your local area, going statewide, going multi-state, the agents who market multi-state, you never see them complain about volume. You'll never see a post that says, hey, I'm marketing in Kansas, Kentucky, Illinois, Indiana, blah, blah, blah. I'm marketing in 3, 4, 5 states and I'm not getting enough volume. You don't see that because it's just not possible to have a volume issue when there's that many people to market to. So, that's another option. Converting to a different lead type like Med Sup or Final Expense, or, we go to a custom calling campaign and potentially look at, customizing a calling script. We've done dental, vision, hearing campaigns before, stuff like that. That's another option. But yeah, I
feel like
lots of options.
I wanted to just kind of interject a point that came to mind. I feel like what people fail to realize as well with that is that issue of having too small of an area impacts all types of marketing. People don't understand that. Yes. Like, it's not just telemarketing and Lead Heroes marketing. It's
all marketing.
It's all marketing, right? Like, I commonly run into issues with people that, I'm teaching how to run Facebook ads and they're trying to target like a 50-mile radius, back in the day, 50-mile radius of like their office or something, or like their county. And, we've always said with Facebook ads, open it up to your entire state. If you're able to, add 2, 3, 4 more states as well. Like, it's going to help your performance significantly. Direct mail, if you have too small of an area with direct mail, same thing. It comes down to, no matter what type of marketing you are doing, it's of availability of the right qualified demographic of people being there.
Yep.
You need enough of those people to make it work. And no matter how you're marketing to those people, if you don't have enough of those people in the area, the marketing's going to suffer, regardless of what type of marketing.
100%. I mean, fishing's such a great analogy for this in my mind, right? If you go to Alaska when the salmon are running and you throw your hook in the water, I've heard stories where people are hooking fish in the back. They're not even getting them. They're not even biting. They're literally throwing their hook in, hooking the back of the fish and pulling people out, right? Yeah, literally just the hook is sticking into the fish and they're pulling them out because there's so many prospects in a dense area that they're not even having to get them to bite on the hook. And marketing is exactly the same way. Like if you don't have enough people to fish in that area, you're going to have a hard time getting anything out of it. If it's an empty pond, you're going to be sitting there all day with your hook in the water and nothing's coming back. You're not pulling anything out of the water. So it's a really great point. And so like with the custom calling campaigns too at Lead Heroes, you're essentially accepting the risk with what the return rate looks like, right? It's just like with direct mail. You drop mail, you can either get a fixed cost where the mail company's guaranteeing, hey, you're paying X amount per lead, whatever it is, or they just drop the 10,000 pieces. With the custom calling, it's like dropping the 10,000 pieces and you just get what comes back. The bigger the demographic, the more area, if you're doing 3, 4, 5 states, your CPLs, you'll see that drop. You'll see those CPLs go down, ultimately being a net positive for you and your agency.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and we could get into the situations where people are, let's say they're getting plenty of volume, but they're having trouble getting people to pick up. Maybe that's a topic for another pod, because that's probably another quite a vast thing. But we've done so much content about that. Like, if that's the issue you're having, or maybe you're getting people to pick up the phone, you're not getting a conversion rate, like to summarize it, and we can talk about it in future episodes, but like to summarize those problems, as an agent myself that's worked every type of lead under the sun, I can tell you that if you're not getting a good pickup rate because you're not touching the lead enough in enough different ways, you're not calling them enough, you're not calling them different times of the day, you're not having emails sent to them, text messages sent to them, the touch rate increases the contact rate, increases the close rate. They're all connected.
100%.
And then if you're getting people to pick up the phone and you're just not getting anywhere with the lead, it's your script, it's what you're saying, it's your level of assertiveness. It's there's always something that can be adjusted to bring out a positive result in the campaign. Like I have never had a type of lead that I couldn't make sales on. I can't think of even one.
Right. Even if it's a bad lead.
Yeah, because I started calling random names on a list. You know what I mean? So like, if you can sell from that, you can sell anything.
100%.
If there's 100%. Even a finite level of interest, like just a smidge, it's like, there's the level of interest is Medicare ?
Right.
I could do something with that.
Yeah. I think, and I do think this is a topic for a whole nother pod because we are about halfway already. But the one thing I'll say, the most common error I see agents make is they're taking their intro that might be working with a different lead type or different marketing type, and they're trying to copy and paste, and they're using that same exact intro, and they're not getting anywhere with a different lead type. You really need to marry the marketing to your intro and make sure, because that first 5, 10, 20, 30 seconds is everything to Bing. Because again, one of the comments on that post we're talking about is someone who had 50 leads and said they didn't get anything. Not a single appointment was scheduled, not a single conversion. And when I see those types of numbers, something's wrong. Something's wrong on what's being said, because statistically, the chances of getting 50 people who said they were willing to talk to an agent and you didn't even get one appointment scheduled, sales, we can talk about the sales later, but you didn't even get one appointment scheduled on 50 leads. That tells me that that's a variable that you control as an agent or as an agency owner. That is, something's wrong. Something's not being said correctly.
If you give me those 50 leads, I will make sales.
This episode of the Seven Figures or Bust podcast is brought to you by the Seven Figure University. SevenFigureUniversity.com is a culmination of Christian Brindle's and mine's educational videos that we have developed over the past 2 decades of combined experience in the senior insurance space. There's more than 250 videos, hundreds of hours of content that can help you become a top producer or a top producing agency in the senior insurance space. We're talking about videos of how to work with specific carriers, how to do different types of marketing, such as seminars or Facebook advertising, how to generate content in the niche to help grow your business, how to grow an agency, all sorts of things. There's so much value in this. It's unbelievable. Christian, what do agents need to know about Seven Figure University?
Seven Figure University can best be thought of as an agency blueprint in a box that's put together for you that brings you step by step in every facet of building a successful seven-figure insurance agency and lays it out all in front of you so you can follow along. Whether you guys need help with marketing, whether you guys need help with branding, whether you guys need help with hiring, training, standard operating procedures, systems and processes, automation, you name it, it's covered in this course. Not only that, you get access to my weekly training calls every Thursday that go from January through the end of September on a week-to-week basis. And you can attend those live and ask questions live. And then, of course, the recordings are put into the university afterward if you can't attend it and make the live training. So there's just so much value. It's the gift that keeps on giving, and it's a great investment into your business to kind of keep you up to date on what's going on, but also kind of point you in the right direction in various things that you're struggling with.
Some of the best training you'll be able to find, you guys, in one spot for one price. Go to sevenfigureuniversity.com and learn more.
Let's get back to the show. I don't care when you ordered them. It could be 2 years ago. You give them to me today, and I could do something with them. You know what I mean?
Should we tag the agent in the post and be like, Christian wants these leads. Christian wants these.
I feel confident in saying that. I don't want to get into a situation where anybody that has struggled with their leads, I'm now like trying to prove to the
Christian, will you work my leads?
That's a full-time job.
Dad, will you work my leads for me, please?
We had a situation with an agent last year, and I think we were going to go down that route with an agent that got like 100 leads in the state, and I was going to call them. I think we got their permission, and I was going to call them, and I think I just ran out of time. We should do that. Yeah. We should do that. The next time we run into a situation like, are you comfortable with Christian Brindle calling these and seeing if he can make sales and, providing you the data? Like we should do that. I'm in. Next time it happens. 50 to 100 plus.
Yeah, it's got to be a good sample size. Yeah, for sure. I love it.
Let's talk about this episode's sponsor real quickly.
Yes, please do.
It ties into the topic of the episode, and that is our How to Find and Buy Books of Businesses course. Guys, this is a course that we created really kind of just off of the experience the last like 3 to 4 years. The agency has been buying books of business. Last year, we bought 900 in 1 year through a couple different transactions. And over the years, we've grown our book of business by multiple thousands of clients. I've said it before, and I'll say it again. There's a lot of agents that will never write 900 clients in their whole career. And we brought them in through acquisition in 1 year. We didn't even write one of them. Not including, of course, all of the new business that we wrote as an agency. There was plenty more of that. But I'm just talking about through acquisition. So we put together a training because a lot of agents just don't know how to do this. They don't know what to look for. They don't know how to value a book of business. They don't know how to structure the terms. They don't know how to get funding, whatever it might be. And we put it together in a 10 to 15 video course where I'm teaching what I've learned over the years, all of the things that we've done in terms of, making these successful things we've learned that were kind of like eggs on our face. We want to prevent you from having egg on your face.
Yes.
It's $197 one time, no reoccurring fees. It's not included in Seven Figure Medicare University. It's kind of its own thing. And it's only available till the end of the day today. We had a promotion going this week.
Tomorrow.
Tomorrow. Thank you.
Yes.
Tomorrow. So the end of the day tomorrow, it's available till the end of the day tomorrow, because we're going to be grandfathering it away and working on some other things, working on some other projects. And so if you want to get into it today, there's been a lot of people jumping in this week. This is your time to do so. Even if you don't have necessarily the desire to purchase books of businesses right now, the training in here is going to be useful for years to come, because a lot of this stuff doesn't change too much in that period of time, and it'll be useful down the road. So it's an investment into your business, and it is a very creative way to leapfrog your competition. And I call it a power move, because you can make years of progress in a short period of time. So make sure you pick that up. Glenn dropped a link to it in the description or the comments of the live stream in the Facebook group. And I don't think you'll be disappointed. I put a lot of love into it. You know how, like they say, when you bake a cake, it was made with love. What's in it? Cinnamon, flour, and love.
Cinnamon, flour, and love. That's how the Powder Puff Girls were also made.
Yeah.
And
the course. This course.
That's right. And the course. The link is below in this on the live stream in the Seven Figure Medicare Agent Facebook group. I have the link in there. So it's course.sevenfigure.com. If you're listening to this after the fact, course.sevenfigure.com. So yeah, definitely take advantage of that, because you have less than 48 hours now before it is going away and will not be available, because we have too much going on. We'll have other stuff coming out here soon, and we don't want to overwhelm you guys, because we know if we have too much going on, I think it overwhelms anybody. So take advantage of this while you can. And that being said, let's get into, this is kind of a big topic for us. We literally have a book of business we're trying to put under contract right now. Mm-hmm. We just closed on, a pretty good size for us. And then we've got one that we just closed on, a few months ago. I think what I'd love to discuss that would be super beneficial for anyone that's listening or watching this is, how does this apply to someone who could never possibly afford buying the types of size books that we're buying? I think that's where I'd love to start this conversation, because I think it is super applicable to even, little Billy who just got started a few weeks ago, right? It's applicable to everyone top to bottom. You could be integrity marketing and you're going to buy a book of 50,000 clients, or you could be little Billy and you're going to buy 10 clients from someone who decides they don't want to do this anymore. Mm-hmm. I'm getting out of the business. This isn't my cup of tea. I have 10 med subs that I sold. I don't want to even service these clients. Will you buy them, little Billy? So why don't we start with little Billy and kind of go from there? So how does this apply to little Billy?
I've been thinking about getting a t-shirt that says, like, keep going, little Billy. Wearing it at the summit or something.
Yes. It should be a part of, dude, it's the diamond. No. The diamond logo, right? The seven-figure diamond. And he's mining little, and it's like right on the other side, while he's not, it's like, keep going, little Billy.
I love it. I love it too. We need this to happen.
Little Billy is a logo now for this company. We're going to trademark it.
Okay, so how does it apply to little Billy? So I feel like there's two ways that it applies to little Billy. Number one, what you just said is right on the money, right? Like, not all books of business have to be, like, we're talking about one we're working on right now, closing, that's 500 clients. The biggest one we did in one swoop last year was 700. Doesn't have to be books of businesses like that, or 1,000 or anything like that in one swoop. I feel like there have been a lot of books of businesses that we've purchased from agents that are 10, 20, 30, 40. And let's say you have no money. Like, let's say you can't even afford 10 clients, right? because those are a lot easier to afford in terms of just coming up with the money. There's two things you can do. I think number one, there's different ways to structure the deal opposed to just paying everything up front.
Yep.
Right. Like for me, where we're at right now, I kind of like the idea of paying everything up front because then it's done. We don't have to worry about anything after that. Like we all move forward. But if somebody is strapped for cash, like there's so many different ways you can go about structuring the terms of a deal. So like an example, right? Maybe you structure a deal like, and this could apply to a larger book of business as well. Let's say you are dealing with an agent or you meet an agent or you become friendly with an agent who is older. Maybe they're 65 to 75 and they've been doing it a long time. They have a nice book of business. Maybe they have 1,000 clients and they want to retire. And you, little Billy, come in and they don't have any kids, let's say, that can come in and take it over. That's actually more common than you think.
Absolutely.
And you're like, here's the deal. You know, like you don't want to do this anymore. You know, I want to come in, I'll take over your book of business and I will pay you a decreasing percentage over time of your book of business. Like if you have no clients, let's say, or 5 or 10, what would you do to be able to snap your fingers and you have 1,000? You're paying a percentage to this other agent and it shrinks over time. The terms are going to kind of be a little bit here and there, but maybe you pay them 50, 60% for a few years. Then it goes down to 40, 50% for a few years. Then it goes down to 30% for a few years. Maybe it's like a 10-year time span. That's just this shrinking percentage. And that's like, that's something that like, you know, that gives you such a jump forward in your career. You know, like if you have no clients, you have 10 clients, 50 clients or something like that. Because not only will you be getting the percentage that you're keeping from those renewals, but you're going to be getting referrals from the book. You're going to be getting all kinds of opportunities that come from the book. You're going to be able to cross-sell to the book. So there's so much more that comes from that opposed to just getting the revenue from the percentage that you're keeping, right? But like that's something that anybody could do if you can convince that agent that you are a trustworthy individual and somebody that they can count on to take good care of their clients. Because at the end of the day, there's two things that these agents care about. Number one, of course, they don't want to get ripped off. They want to get paid.
Right.
But two, I think for a lot of them, it's almost as important or equally, they want to make sure their clients are in good hands. It's a very, very important thing for a lot of these guys, as it should be. They don't want to see their clients just get cast by the wayside in terms of their problems, their needs, anything like that. But if I had to start, I talked about this at a, sorry, let me just wrap up this and I'll,
no, you're good.
I'll be quiet, but
shut up, cut his mic.
I said this at an event recently. If I had to start over today with nothing, that's probably how I would want to start. I'd probably try to find an agent that I could come in and be their successor.
Seriously.
You know,
seriously.
That's a lot easier to me than building a book from ground zero.
Sure.
You know, but I didn't know what I know today back then.
Right. Well, I think so. So what happens, because this was a situation that we ran into, right? So the perspective of the person selling their book. What happens if they don't do their certifications? What happens if their license is no longer active and they let their insurance license lapse? Mm-hmm. You're doing them a huge service.
Totally.
To purchase their book, to keep it going, to either pay them, and again, how they get compensated, it can be totally negotiated. And I love that you brought that up. Is like it could be a profit share, it could be paid up front, it could be paid in installments. There's all sorts of ways that you can negotiate that agreement where it works for both parties, right? It doesn't have to be this cut and dry deal where it's like you have to pay this much per client and I need 100% of it tomorrow. You can really kind of negotiate how these deals work. And so take that into consideration. If you don't have the capital, if you don't have access to the capital, there's ways where you can still pull the trigger and make power moves. Like Christian said, I think that's the thing. So I wanted to talk about different instances where people have come to us over the past, I'd say 6-12 months, of why we've been solicited to buy some of these books. There's retirement, right? That's a really common one. The workforce, baby boomers are retiring. And the same thing goes for insurance agents who are retiring. They're getting out of the business, right? So there's retirement. There's people who came into the industry, had a little bit of success, and now they're moving on to something else. I think we had one that was becoming a carrier rep, if I remember correctly. I don't know if you remember. There was this weird situation where they had a small book of business and they were becoming a carrier rep, and I think they were being forced to sell. I think it was a conflict of interest based on the carrier. So that was like a fire sale that was going on. I gotta get rid of this book. I'm becoming a carrier rep next month.
Yep.
Someone who was getting divorced. They needed to liquidate the asset because they're getting divorced.
A downline agent of ours, that we have those from time to time.
Yeah.
Where like someone's in our downline and they've worked at it for 3-4 years and just not working. It's not growing at the pace that they feel like it should. They want to try other things, like all kinds of situations.
Another one I'll mention too is like sometimes people just need access to cash, right? And so they're going to liquidate part of their business, which obviously I think Christian and I feel strongly about retaining our client. Like that would be like the last thing. That's like lopping off your arm to save your life, right? Like if you absolutely had to, it's a way you can generate cash. But again, that's a situation though, where if you understand what's going on in the marketplace and you understand the value of that client, you can cross sell to them, you can reach out to them and do policy reviews. You can obviously over time, you're going to make money on the renewals if you keep that policy active. Like you have to really understand that part of the business. And then you can see the value of, wow, if I just pay 1.5, 2x, 2.5x, I can really make money on the back end of this thing. So maybe that's the next place to take this conversation is how do you value a client, and maybe you want to talk about that.
Yeah. With like, and I'll share a couple of things like without going in, without giving the farm away necessarily.
Don't give away the farm, whatever you do.
But like, the other thing in terms of that, right, like that I think goes well with this conversation of value in the client. Like sometimes people, like Glenn said, like they're just in a hurry to get rid of it. Like we've had, the standard multiple is about 2x usually. Yeah. Usually like give or take, like that's what is looked at as like very fair. Some people might want a little bit more. Good luck. Some people, their book might not be worth 2x. I had somebody come to me. I've had all kinds of books come to me over the years, but like there was one that came to me one time, and just amazing people, by the way. Love these guys. Gotten to know them a little bit. But they were looking to sell a book of business that was all WellCare Medicare Advantage plan, if I remember right. And I'm trying to remember the exact number. It might have been 400 or 500, something like that. And I just thought to myself, I'm like, I don't want 400 or 500 WellCare Medicare Advantage plans. Sorry, WellCare. I just didn't, like.
Oh my God.
I feel like I don't want to give away the farm. I feel like average age of the client, average age of the policy, what type of policy, carrier, all of that matters.
All sorts of variables that you have to factor in. And it's also super specific to you as an individual agent or agency owner. Because again, Christian and I are looking for, when we're looking at some of these bigger purchases, there's some really specific things that we're looking for. And part of it is geographic location of those clients, right? A local client means more to us than, 500 clients in Maine, right? where it's harder for us to have access to that client. So, some of these variables might mean more to you than to us based on how your business is structured. So it's not always cut and dry. You have to kind of understand the principles of these variables and how they can apply to you and your business. But one funny thing that your comment triggered for me a memory of, I remember in one of the Facebook groups, someone, because you'll see the post from time to time is, I'm getting rid of my book, or I need to sell my book. And there was one person, I remember they were adamant about getting 3X. They were just like shooting everyone in the face that was trying to be like, no, that's too much. Or I would do 2.25 maybe if this checks. And they're like, no, I'm getting 3X. This is the best book. And it's like, good luck. Good luck, because you're probably trying to overcharge people for what you're selling.
I think to get 3X, a book would have to be so perfect on every level, right? Like I think it would have to be like, all of them just turned 65.
Right, that's what I was gonna say.
What I mean?
Super young.
They're all with like the most beautiful carriers to work with in terms of the transfer process, which they're all a little different. Some are easy to work with. Some are insanely difficult to work with in terms of transfer policies. Some of them you can't even do it, And so like, it'd have to be that. It'd have to be like just at the stars align for me, right? Like, even if I loved a book of business, I'm probably not going to pay 3X. I'm probably not going to do it because, what you have working against you when you buy a book of business is you have an uphill battle of retention of the clients, just naturally, because you're not the person that they signed up to work with. Because of no choice of theirs, the client, they're now working with you. And they had no control over the situation. Doesn't mean you can't retain the clients. And in the course, I go over specifically tactics that we've used and in collaboration with the other agent to retain the clients that have been super effective for us. There's ways to do it, but in general, you are facing a little bit of an uphill battle. And so, sometimes you have to ask yourself, like, if I write a policy myself versus buying a policy that someone else sold, which one is more likely to be on the books longer than 3 years? Probably the one I sold myself.
For sure.
For
sure. They know you.
And so if you're paying 3X for a book, that's how you have to look at it, right? Like, because I'm basically I'm underwater until I've surpassed 3 years of having that client on the books. And so, I feel like, and you never know what kind of situations you're going to come across. Like Len said, we've ran into situations where people are really desperate to get something done. We bought in books for 0.6, 1X, 1.5, so I'm not saying we always pay 2, but like
2 is usually fair.
2 is probably the metric I usually will start with. And then depending on the situations, like if it's super unfavorable, then maybe I'll go down. I typically won't go higher though. Like, again, it'd have to just absolutely like, change my life. You know what I mean? Like I've opened the Ark of the Covenant and I'm staring inside. My face is melting off. I'm looking in this light is shining up. I'm like,
Well, and there's been a lot of talk here so far about like 1X, 2X, 3X. And if you're a brand new agent and you're listening to this and you're like, what are they talking about? We're talking about the multiple based on the annual commissions that client is generating. So, an average Medicare Advantage, what would you say is about $300 a year?
Yeah, give or take.
$350.
Yeah. Depends on the state.
Again, it depends on there's lots of variables, right?
300 is a good number to ballpark.
Could be 300, could be 400, depends on the carrier and the policy, etc. Yada yada. So, $300 to $400 per client is, let's say that's the annual commission you can anticipate. So when we're saying 1.5, 2X, 3X, we're talking about the multiple based on that number. And that's why it's super important to know the numbers behind this. And that's part of why you need the course. So you can understand all these numbers, and you don't want to overpay. I mean, that's the other thing that we've seen happen too. I saw this comment. I think when we first announced the course, I think someone commented about how they grossly overpaid. Do you remember that person? Yeah, they paid. Did they pay 5x or 6x or something insane? I thought it was something crazy. Like,
I don't remember the specifics. I remember them talking about them overpaying. I don't remember what they said they overpaid by, but maybe if it was that's insane.
Or maybe it was part of the deal where it was like, I remember reading and being blown away and feeling great about how much we paid for our book. I was like, wow, some people really overpay out there.
Maybe I'd be willing to do like 2.5 or 3x if like I could break the payments up over like 3 or 4 years.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Like things like that might make it more worth it for me. But if like someone wants everything up front, it's not happening, son. I'm not doing it.
Yeah. Well, you have to factor in attrition rate too.
Yeah.
So, if you're paying 3x, how many of those clients after 3 years, because you're essentially paying for 3 years of commission up front. You're saying, I'm expecting these clients to be on the books for more than 3 years. Well, you're going to lose a percentage of these clients, especially if it's an older book.
Yeah.
You got an agent that's retiring and he hasn't written a lot of policies in the past few years. And the average age of your client is 78, 79, 80. You're talking about now you're going up against Father Time, the Grim Reaper. The Grim Reaper is going to take some of your clients, unfortunately.
Someone asked a question in the comments on the live stream in the Facebook group. Good question. I feel like we kind of answered a little bit, but I maybe we can touch on it in a tiny bit more detail. When you buy books, do you buy in preferred locations versus buying books that have clients scattered all over the country? So like Glenn said earlier, like I feel like for us, a client is more valuable here in Utah than anywhere else because we have a huge amount of clients here. We have thousands of clients here. We know the market better than any other market, and we're better than any other agency in this market. Sorry, we just are. If you're watching this, we're just more knowledgeable. We know the plans. We know the carriers. We know. It's and I feel like part of taking care of somebody is having that knowledge base and knowing. The more you know about that, I think the easier it makes it for you. It doesn't mean that we don't buy books in other states. Like we bought books in Florida. A lot in Florida, actually. The Carolinas, things like that. But like if I had it head to head and I had a book here versus a book out of state, the book here just automatically is worth more to me.
Absolutely.
So like let's say I can only buy one and I have these two options.
Right.
I'm gonna lean towards the one here if all things are equal. Because it's going to be easier for us. It's going to incorporate better into what we do.
Plus the brick and mortar office is in Utah. God forbid if that senior actually wanted to come in the office and talk to someone, they could, right? They could, and then, behind the marketing and the outreach behind it's like, oh, this is Utah. Come. Everyone always has that thing where they kind of love when the person's local in the same state, same city, whatever it is.
They may never come in. A lot of them never do, but they like having the option that they could.
Yes. There's a peace of mind to it, knowing, oh, this business is here in my state. I can drive there, even if they're a couple hours away. Yeah. I could drive there and visit this company if I really need to. So yeah, I think that's a great point.
I want to move into final thoughts because we're getting close to the top of the hour. I have to teach a CE today for Utah NBIP. So if any of you are Utah agents and you're going to be at the NBIP, I'll see you there.
He's on his way.
I'll be teaching you about compliance.
Ooh, fun. Yay.
All the compliance police out there just died a little inside hearing that. They're like, oh, they're letting him?
Rules? There are no rules.
Satan is teaching our CE. So final thoughts for me, guys, on the Book of Business conversation. Make sure to get that course. it's a steal. It's 197 bucks.
Yeah, it really is.
It's less than, it's like half an app. You know what I mean? Like, it is such great value. We could charge a lot more for it than we are. We're nice. We're nice. So we're not. But if we ever did bring it back, I guarantee we'll charge more.
Absolutely.
And so make sure that you pick it up while you can. It's available today. It's available tomorrow. And then after that, it's grandfathered away and not available anymore. So just make sure you take advantage of it and pick it up. And I think it'll be well worth your while. If this topic intrigues you at all, this is something you want to incorporate into your business. Like, I walk through everything that we've looked at in business, in buying books of business. And I walk through what we've learned. I talk about mistakes we've made. Like, I try to share everything that I possibly can. And I think it's an easy watch too. It's only 10, 15 videos. So like, you can probably get through it in a pretty short period of time.
Absolutely huge value. Again, whether you're little Billy, you just started, you got 10, 50, 100 clients, or whether you're an established agency, you already have 1,000 clients. This is such a great way to grow. It's such a great way to increase your ability to reach out to seniors. You know, again, if you're the agent of record, you've already hurdled a lot of compliance when you're able to market other ancillary services, final expense, dental, vision, hearing, cancer. It's just going to help your business grow even faster. It's a power move. Like Christian said, it's a power move. The link is in the description, or in the comments rather, below this live stream, course.sevenfigure.com. Please check it out. If you're even on the fence, remotely interested in buying a book of business, I think there's an immense amount of value here for you guys. I'm obsessed with this strategy from a business growth perspective. I think it's such a huge win. I honestly, like, I coming into the agency side of the business, you know, last year and now going into this year, like I kind of already saw the writing on the wall on how this could be beneficial, but going through these acquisitions now, I just want to rocket to the moon and buy as much as we can. That's genuinely how I feel. So between Freebie Friday and buying books of businesses, I will make sure we go bankrupt one way or another. So that's my Freebie Friday plug as well. Comment below on the live stream. We'll have one more tomorrow for this week, and we'll do a giveaway here this Friday. So those are my final thoughts, good sir. Good luck with your NABIT class today.
Thanks.
Yeah.
I'm gonna
have fun.
I'm gonna be hawking some summit tickets at the end. You know, the state of Utah approved that, by the way.
Oh Lord.
Appreciate you guys watching all the way to the end. As always. Episode 71, great episode.
Yes.
And if you guys are watching, whatever platform you might be watching on, and you made it all the way to the end, we certainly appreciate you. You're the real MVP. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe on YouTube if you're watching on YouTube. Make sure to comment on the Facebook group stream to be entered into Freebie Friday, as Glenn said. And make sure to subscribe on any podcast specific platforms like Spotify, Apple Podcasts. Leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. We would certainly appreciate it. And we'll be back with you guys next time. Wishing you guys massive success in your businesses. And thanks for watching. We'll see you on the next one.